Hi, Sarah here with the layout process video for UK Scrap Addicts today. I am going to be making some alcohol ink butterfly embellishments. Our theme this month is to make handmade embellishments. So as you saw at the beginning, I'm using the Calm Waters kit by Little Rainbow Moon. I will link her shop below. She does wonderful handmade watercolour paints as well as creative kits. So first off though, I am going to be making a page of alcohol ink splishes and splashes, and then I'll be cutting this out to create my butterflies. So I'm using some vellum so that it moves around nice and smoothly over the paper. I mean, ideally you can use Yupo paper, which is made especially for alcohol inks, I believe, but I'm just using vellum. And I'm adding 2 colours of alcohol ink as well as some alcohol ink alloys, which is the metallic, which kind of gathers together and leaves like metallic kind of sorry if you just heard a motorbike go flying past. It just leaves like a vein of metal running through it all. And then I'm using this blower to move the ink around. I'm not worried about making any nice feathered edges like you would do if you were making an actual art piece or using it as to make a background. I'm just wanting lots of colour, lots of different splishes and splashes on there, as much variety as possible. So as you saw, it would work really well as a background. If I was to do it as a full background, I'd just either staple the edges or I'd glue the centre, or you could even stitch around the edge. As you can see, it does look really nice and that. And I decided to go with a white background. I was going to go with black because the colours still showed up, but I thought white background would work really nicely with the colours. So now I'm taking the watercolour paints, the handmade watercolour paints, and I'm just going to splosh on lots of different colours. They are made to coordinate perfectly with my kit, so it's just a matter of gradually adding more and more colour until I'm happy with my background. And I do sometimes I add a bit of water without the paint, then I add the paint with water, and then sometimes I just dip the paint, more paint to it and less water, just to get a bit of variety on the page. And then I do a few splashes here and there as well. And once I'm happy with that, I'll just let it dry. I'm using the Calm Waters paint palette as well as 2 from the Metallics paint palette. Again, as I say, I'll link the shop below if you want to go and check them out. They are lovely and they're such high quality. They're great to use and they come in them cute little tins. So here I'm just adding some of them, a mixture of the silver and more pearlescent white colour over the top to just give it a little bit of a silvery shimmer, because I'm going to be using some gilding flakes in a bit. Here I'm just taking some off the papers. There's tissues, there's hand painted papers and stickers and all sorts. So I'm just taking some bits from the kit to make my paper layers. I'm just going to staple this bit of tissue together because I just wanted to add that little fold in it. Apologies if you can hear my little boy in the background as well. Chaos here. It's the only time I have to film though, I'm afraid. No school and all that. So I'm going to be using some of that alcohol ink background as a layer to tie it all in together, because in the Calm Water kits there's not so much green, whereas on my alcohol inks I've only got a few alcohol inks and I chose the green and bluey colour ones because those went the best with this. So all I'm going to do is add some of this liquid watercolour, also by Little Rainbow Moon, just to add a hint more of the green to tie everything in together so that the background matches in with the alcohol ink butterflies once I've made them as well, and then in with the paper layers as well, so the whole thing ties in. So yeah, I've just added a small amount of that green, just to a hint of it here and there. And now I'm just going to chop up this vellum with the alcohol ink on, and I'm just going to work out what size I need to make them, chop off a few and then into the right shape, and then just pop them on this very old You can see how old my machine is. It's the right state. and my cutting boards as well. It's one of those old big styes which you don't need a platform for. They cut into the sponge, so you can cut different materials with these, more so than with the normal metal dies. So they're quite handy. And as you can see, I've just cut out a load of butterflies, so I'm going to layer them up as well. And now it got very messy at this point. I decided to try and do these hearts through a stencil to have metallic hearts using the gilding flakes, but it just came out as splodges and the gilding flakes got all in my hands and it was all a big mess. But it looked pretty, so it was all good. But if you don't like mess and glitter and things like that, I would suggest avoiding doing this, because it's definitely a very messy process. So what I do is I let the glue dry slightly, just so it's tacky rather than full on like still wet, and then the gilding flakes stick to it, and then I take an old brush and brush off all the excess, and then I try and pour it back into the bag. I don't make you watch me do all that. It took ages because it was just floating around my room like Christmas. But anyway, as you can see, I'm just brushing off the excess, and then you're left with that beautiful gilding across the butterflies there, and there's some running down the watercolour as well. Now I'm just adding some dimension to my paper layers to help the picture of that is my new little boy Gemmas, to help my photo pop off the page. As always, I always add some thin foam in between. It's cheaper than buying foam pads and it lasts ages. You just add a bit of tape to it or a glue runner and it sticks down just fine. And I glue most of the back of the vellum because it has curled up from having alcohol inks on it. It didn't stay very flat. It probably would have done if I'd have put it under some books or something to dry, after it dried, sorry. So now next, I'm just adding a little more watercolour around the bottom there because I know that I want my title to go across there, and my title is white. It's the acrylic words by Bramble Fox. So I'm just adding a little more colour so that they stand out a bit better on my background. I'm just choosing some from the same colours that I used before. And am I about done? Almost, maybe. Sorry if I'm a little rusty. It's been about 8 months since I last did a video, obviously because of having my little boy, so it's taken me quite a while to get back into things. I think I'm just about done. We're just adding a few more splashes here and there around the edge, and then I think enough mixed media already, Sarah, come on. Move on. Okay, so next up I'm taking some Nuvo glue and just gluing the centre of the butterflies together. I'm not going to glue down the whole thing, obviously, because I want it to be three-dimensional, just down the centre, and then just put them to one side to dry. I'll also use that glue to glue down my title. The Nuvo glue works well. You could also use glossy accents. I think they're basically the same thing. If I'm wrong, then please do tell me in the comments. I don't want to be giving false information, but as far as I'm aware, they're a pretty similar product. It works very well as a glue anyway, this stuff. You can also use it to make clear acrylic dots, like sort of style droplets around your page, which look nice. And of course, with these Bramble Fox pieces, you need to take the protective layer off the top of the words. There's always like a plastic layer that you take off, and then underneath it's super shiny, really nice. Now I'm moving that out of the way to dry whilst I finish embellishing my butterflies. I'm taking tiny heart gems, and then in silvery colour, and then some just tiny dot ones as well, and just making little hearts for the heads, and then dotting a few down the centre for the bodies. And once I've got them embellished, I do take some vellum glue dots and just add them to the back of each butterfly, again only on the center point so that the wings can lift up slightly. And then I'm just putting them around my page. I've done 3 because 3s always work on scrapbook pages. It's just one of those things that it looks pleasing to the eye. So I'm putting one at the bottom. I have actually covered up where I made a mistake on the bottom, where I managed to get glue on that bit when I was doing the gilding flakes. So another thing about scrapbooking, if something goes wrong, just cover it with something pretty and move on. And now I'm just adding a few of these cute watercolour stickers as well, with some words on them, and just dotting them around because they have more of the blue from behind the photo, and I felt like it needed a little more blue. Apologies, this time it's the baby. And then I'm finally adding some trails of diamante little gems coming from my butterflies, and then I'm just going to dot around a few just around the page for add a bit of sparkle all over the edge. And then I finally finish off with some white splashes of this Posca pen. And part of the reason why I did this was, again, to cover up a couple of little mistakes where things had gone a little far away from where I wanted the cluster of colours. So I just added a few more around the page as well. And that is me done. So thanks for joining me today. If you did find me on UK Scrap Addicts and you'd like to see more from me, then do check out my channel, which will be linked below. And if you found me via my channel, definitely go over to UK Scrap Addicts and see all the wonderful scrapbook pages the girls are creating over there. So thanks again. Apologies for it being really rusty. I hope I'll get back in the swing of things soon. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.